So Funcom has been doing a ton of press around Dune Awakening ever since the GDC and PAX circuit they just wrapped up. If you're not in their Discord, you should be because it is jam-packed with daily activities. And it looks like a link got shared yesterday to an interview that Joel did with, I believe this is VG247.com, calling what happens in the desert, stays in the desert. How Dune Awakening's factions expand upon the lore more than the Dune movies. So we're going to go through this and read the interview. We previously did the one at WCC Tech, I think it was called. Got a link there somewhere in the playlist, so make sure to check that out below. And if you're not already doing so, make sure to follow along on their website and everything else. And of course, here on my channel, I'm doing a few times a week right now. If you're unfamiliar with the way I do things here on my channel, when something is in production and early access and or beta, I'll cover news as it comes up, and if I'm really excited about it a few times a week, and the fact that I've been covering this a few times a week should tell you something. We are definitely looking forward to this as a community as well. We have a group of players who enjoy crafting survival that are currently we're playing Enshrouded on Saturdays and Sundays, and this is what we're planning on moving over to once this becomes an actual launched product. And some of us, I just started playing Conan Exiles, and we have people in our community who love Conan Exiles and have a lot more information on it than I do. And so they're taking a lot of the mechanics from Conan Exiles and porting them over into this game, like the sandstorms, the free climbing, the crafting survival system, the housing system, a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, I don't want to get bogged down in that too much because I would love to read through this interview because I have actually not seen this yet. I know it got popped up in the Discord yesterday, and I bookmarked it for coverage this morning. So let's go through this and read at our leisure. The article is by Connor McCarr, who's a staff writer for VG247. It says here, those who play online survival games are pirates, pioneers, gang leaders, and ambushers. They form strong alliances, establish long-lasting rivalries. Dune Awakening looks to be no exception. For those who've dreamed of waging political, economic, and physical war on the dunes of Arrakis, the game may be our best bet. So I think this is going to be mostly about the factions, but we'll know more as we get through the interview. So here we go. It says here, to find out more, I sat down and talked with Chief Creative Officer at Funcom and Creative Director of Dune Awakening, Joel Bylos. The company has ample experience with survival games, and the gameplay that they've shown so far gives us a peek at Dune Awakening's unique quirks and twists, it says here. But what about those who are lore specific, who want to envelop themselves in Dune? The ones who want to pick factions. This is going to be an interesting thing because as I understand, and I'll know more as I read through this interview, but as I understand things from the Dune Direct event, factions are going to be more tied to in-game activities and things like, oh, there's a spice blow. Let's, first person, first guild that makes it back, that guild's going to be able to align themselves with one of the major houses, and that'll help the major faction, and that's going to go towards the Landraad. But I don't know what that looks like. I do know how it works. If you haven't played Funcom and Shiro Games' Dune Spice Wars, there looks to be some crossover that I've seen in the way things are working. So I'd say you could maybe take a look at that game if you want to get an idea of how the land rack and the houses work in that game with the factions. But it's separate from this. But I'm saying there looks to be some similarities. And if you love Dune, you should check it out. It says much of the meat in terms of faction takes place later in the game after you've built up your own base and carved out a home on Arrakis. Although the roots are planted in character creation, where you can pick a variety of home planets. You can become a Harkonnen, a House Atreides, a Mentat, all these options at character creation. It lets you, as the article says, the option, what kind of master you train under lets you ignite the Dune fantasy, but eventually you're going to run into two major factions on the planet, the Atreides and the Harkonnen. It says here, handlers from both of those factions can be found on the Billet player, and each faction has their own settlement in the world for players to explore and mingle in. Now, this is funny because I remember going back, it's been years now. I bet it's been 8 years ago or so. In an episode I did when I used to do Mondays in MMORPGs, the podcast, probably in the first season, I would imagine. I know we did an episode on factions and PvP, and I had said at the time, I'm very much a Care Bear. The one game I would break that for would be Dune, because Dune, it makes sense because it's the Atreides versus the Harkonnen and the Emperor, and it would make sense. And it, along comes Funcom and decides to push this out there. And even though I traditionally don't play PvP, I'm excited by what this game brings to the table because I do love the books and I love the the complex relationship between the Atreides and the Harkonnens. So it's going to be very interesting that you can align yourselves with those factions. Joe Bilo said the idea is that we want to use those spaces to show off the character of the factions. And when he was asked to expand on Harko Village's purpose in Dune Awakening. Sorry, I skipped something here. The first village they saw was Harko Village, a slice of the monochromatic home planet dropped in the sand. So each faction has their own hub, which is a lot. We've seen this in like EverQuest 2, World of Warcraft, etc. Bilos continues and says it feels like a brutalist depiction of what the Harkonnens would be like in their place, their home. Wanted to create a space for players to role play, so he set up a bar called the Hanovers. So it says in the books, the Harkonnen have made their money from the whale fur industry, which is as it says here, a super random reference. So this is one of those Easter eggs for people who know the books. There's going to be things like that. It says here, if you go into Hanover's bar, there's a giant whale skeleton on the roof. So there are all these little things that create an authentic environment for players to hang out in. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. It's funny because the vast majority of players who go through the game are never going to know that reference, but if you've read the books and you're a fan and you've gone through every little nook and cranny of what the books have to offer, then you're going to see little things like that and go, oh, and it's going to bring you even deeper into the game. All right, so there's factions. How does the player fit into it? It says when you find those handlers, you'll be able to complete missions and contracts for them to earn faction. Plus your guild. I'm reading through this. According to Bilos, the guild can, if it so chooses, take things a step further than just running faction missions. It says eventually for a guild, you might sign a contract of allegiance, which means you go to the leader of the faction, such as the Beast Raban or Leto Atreides, and you sign either of those factions you sign on to. From that point on, your guild is aligned with that faction, and you'll be able to participate in the Landraad, which have certain demands they need, and those are going to change things. They'll vote on different rule sets, and you need to influence that voting, which sounds to me, like I was saying earlier, a lot like what's going on with the Landraad in Dune Spice Wars, because you have to vote, and you have to sway things to help your major faction that you're allied with, because you can do truces and stuff. So it sounds like, I'm really glad I played it, because it sounds like there's some ties into this. It says here, the Landraad, if you're unaware, is the entity that represents the great houses of the Dune universe and is ruled over by the Emperor himself. It says Bilos was sure to emphasize that the faction and the Landraad system aren't necessarily joined at the hip. The guilds who choose to represent a faction can complete objectives to win the favor of the Landraad for boons and benefits. He says there's a lot. I can only talk broadly about it right now. If you influence the Landraad in particular ways, they might reduce the spice tax, which could be beneficial to you as a faction if you've been stockpiling instead of selling it. And then when you win the Landraad, you can change the spice taxation and then sell a whole bunch of it, which is a great way to make money. Again, this is so cool because we did see this in Spice Wars, because you could totally, there's the Chome market, and you can do things to influence that and influence the value of your own shares. So you can buy and hold and then sell. It was really cool. So this is really cool that it looks like Funcom is taking a lot of what they've already done with the other game and implementing it here, as well as just with Conan Exiles too, which is really cool. It says, while we won't be seeing Paul's religious jihad taking place in this alternate universe, the presence of political intrigue friction should be a pleasing thought for Dune fans. And this is an important lore note. This is not the same universe as the books. This is an alternate dimension, an alternate universe. So things are not going to be the same. I was curious how the Funcom team would tackle the problems of faction imbalance, especially if winning over the favor of the Landraad could have vast economic impacts. And it says here, turning out being a member of the same faction isn't a guarantee of friendship enemies. So this is another quote from Bilos saying, in PvP areas, you can see another Atreides player and shoot them. That's up to you, but we have a rule. What happens in the desert stays in the desert. It's not just about going, I'm Atreides now and that's my brother. No. That guy's Atreides and his guild is getting up ahead of yours. So you may want to backstab them as well. That's how the Dune universe is. It's like Game of Thrones in space in a way. You don't want to let some upstart young guild get ahead either, right? So they'll get more rewards than our guilds. We kind of want to encourage the dynamic social play between different groups, even within the factions, which totally takes place in the books too, because there's minor houses and major houses, and the way they're all fighting for favor. It could be really interesting. Um, no release date yet, of course, as because I know people are going to invariably ask in the comments below, and they're going to be like, "Dude, when's Dune Awakening coming out?" We have no release date at all, so roll with it. We're still waiting. But in the meantime, if you want to know more, you can find out their website. You can check out their website, join their Discord, and if you want to follow along for my coverage, check out the playlist below, and of course, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Daily streams happen between here and Twitch, and I will catch everybody in the next one. Don't forget the Patreon and the Discord. See you, everybody.